welcome to Not in the Job Description. My name is Scott.
My name's Chris.
And we are going to be talking about things that happened at work, and maybe they weren't in your job description. For the record, I think we also have to understand that a lot of times we won't be giving full names of people to protect the innocent and sometimes the guilty. And the other thing we're going to do is just make sure that if there's something where it's not really good for the business, we might try to protect the business as well. So for this show, we have our friend Travis with us. Hi, Travis.
Hello.
And something we've been thinking about for a long time is, as we talked about this, what kinds of scenarios should we bring up? And one of the things that came up was rent to own. Chris, have you ever rented to own anything?
I have not.
Really? Okay.
No.
I haven't rent to own anything, but I know I've taken some ridiculous kind of financing on furniture when I was younger. But Travis, tell us, you used to work for a rent to own company?
Yes. When I was in college, the last semester, I worked for a rent-to-own company in Mansfield. And I figured up one time that if you rent-to-own a VCR, you pay over $1,000 for that. You know, you can buy a VCR for probably $50 in the 90s when I was doing it. But, yeah, it was very interesting work.
When you worked for this company, like, did you have any idea exactly how much stuff they were renting out there for ownership?
Yeah, I mean, I was a young kid, senior in college, so I, didn't have much life experience. But I show up to the interview, and they offered me the job on the spot. That should have been maybe a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Did you negotiate your salary?
No, it was funny too because I wouldn't have gone to an interview, but my mom was pushing me like, "You got to start looking for jobs." I'm like, "Well, Mom, I still, whatever." So I found that, and yeah, it was a good ride.
Did you get a discount on that $1,000 VCR?
No, but I picked up a washer and dryer one time that this poor lady had paid on, I think, for 48 months.
Oh my gosh.
And she would have paid a ton of money for it, and she just couldn't pay anymore, and she let us have it back.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next question. What exactly were you responsible for? I mean, I know we've talked about this in the past, and you said something about collections. Yep. So I can only imagine the type of people you're running into. Number one, they're rent-to-own business. These people probably don't have a lot of options. But two, you've got to go there and take shit out of their house.
Yeah, I was a repo man at the end of the day. But we had a list. And so the other guy had his accounts, I had my accounts, and we would make phone calls in the morning trying to get people to come in and pay. And I had this one dude that I never met him, but he was like almost a year past due. And so, yeah, I would imagine they wrote him off at some point. But we had everything from beds, washer and dryers, furniture, TVs, and everyone was kind of in the Mansfield area or within probably 30 or 40 miles. So we had that account, and we had to get our delinquencies down to a certain dollar amount every week. And so Thursday and Friday, you're really pushing it to try to get it done.
You literally showing up at people's homes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We would go out and collect the money. Definitely.
Nice.
Yep. And if sometimes you would go there, they're like, I just can't make the pay. It was like, well, can we get the stuff back? I'm like, sure. And so then you'd load it in the cube truck and take it back.
All right, but I have to ask now. If you've got somebody who doesn't have the pride of ownership, clearly, and they've rented this thing for 48 months, and they don't own it yet, I mean, what kind of condition was this stuff in when you got it?
Yeah, I mean, just like anything, you get people that take care of their stuff and get people that don't. But I would say, to give a good percentage, 85% did not take care of the stuff. I mean, it was awful. And one time, I remember, we picked a bed up, and this thing was gross. I mean, I didn't even want to touch it, We rented that out the same day to somebody else. Yeah, it was. I mean, thinking back on that,
wait a minute, wait. You're renting used beds? Is there a disclaimer when you do that? They tell people about it?
I don't know. I mean, there's tags on there that says if you take the tag off, you're going to jail, but it doesn't apply to rent to own, I guess.
You just put a clean mattress cover on it, and away you go, right?
No, there was no mattress cover. That would have kicked the budget,
I guess I would have to find the person desperate enough to go, I need a used bed, and I don't care what it looks like.
Yeah.
So instead of like $50 a month, is it only $45 a month if it's been used, or do you charge the same price?
No, there was, like, you couldn't say, I want a new one. You would come in, and they had a studio or whatever, I mean, this stuff was crap, you know. I mean, it wasn't good stuff. It was all like funny green leather sofas and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't top of the line.
You know, it's funny. You're not the only person I know who has been in this line of business. My friend Greg, who I used to work with, he told me that his first job out of college was collecting for a rent-to-own place. And I said, well, how'd you get out of that? And he goes, well, what happened is I had to knock on this guy's door because I had to pick up his couch, his VCR, his microwave, and something else. And the guy didn't want to open the door, and he was begging me, please don't take my stuff. I start a new job at the place where Greg and I both worked. And he's like, I start a new job there next week, and I'll be able to pay you after next week. So what Greg did is he pretty much stole that guy's job too. He actually went to that place of employment, and he filled out an application and quit working that week from rent to own and started working for this new company. So, but he had some pretty good stories as well, as far as you have to knock on doors and sometimes surprise people like, hey, we're here to pick up your stuff.
Well, I was so young and dumb at the time that I'm in banking now, and I had an interview with where I eventually worked at the bank. And I remember I needed to go to Columbus for my second interview, and I thought, wow, I've already got a job. Should I just not go to this interview? And looking back, that probably would have been the biggest mistake of my life, you know. So luckily I thought better of it at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure this is for another show, but there was a time where I worked at a place and I wasn't really happy, and I ended up looking for another job, and PepsiCo was hiring. It was this is back before the internet, you know, it was in the paper. And so I applied for it, and they were very excited to talk to me. And they just said, hey, can you meet us at one of our companies? I said, sure, where's that? Taco Bell. So I go to Taco Bell, and I see this guy, and I'm telling you what, he put on a full court press on me. Yeah, it's Taco Bell. We make our money 99 cents at a time, but look at the business we've done here. We're looking for somebody who's college educated, blah, 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 blah. Just put all on me. And the whole time I'm going, I've worked in food before. I don't want to work in food. I don't want to be called at 7 o'clock at night because somebody left and quit, and I have to go and wrap burritos all night. And he said, and we pay, and he told me the amount. And I think at the time it was something like $37,000. I think I was making 24 at the time. And I thought, oh, this is horrible, man. I wish this was just like he was going to offer me 18,000 or something. And I just couldn't believe it. And they put the full court press on me forever. So I was very happy that, I thought about when I worked at a steakhouse, what I smelled like when we got home. Chris and I worked at the same steakhouse. You don't leave that smell at work. And I can only imagine it was double down at Taco Bell. So yeah, I think you made the right decision, Travis.
Yeah.
So speaking of salary, were you on a commission then at rent to own, or if you collected from these delinquents, did you get a little kickback for that?
That's been a long time ago, but I got paid a salary, but then we got some kind of weekly bonus if we had our delinquencies under. But I remember, I said the guy offered me the job the first day. So I go into his office and he's telling me how much money I can make. And I'm looking at this guy like, well, the way you're dressed, I'm not sure that you're really killing it. But he put the full court press on, and I thought, so I just did it the second semester of my senior year because didn't have many classes.
So when you would go to collect, would people try to like barter with you and say, hey, I don't have any money, but I'll give you this instead, or maybe offer a little personal services?
Not what you're thinking, Chris. It probably could have happened, but I would have. Yeah, it was a rough crowd. I was running it. Someone that's renting to own a VCR, you got to think about it, So yeah, I did not have any of those.
Okay, but I would just say don't knock it till you've tried it. That's all I would say.
The guys I was working with, I would not have put it past them. There were some interesting folks.
So that brings me to my question then. Do you recall a particular situation that either stood out to you as being funny, sad, disturbing, as in your collection days at the rent-to-own place?
Yeah. One of the best ones, and I've thought about this many times since then. So we go in this kind of shady area of town, and this guy is renting this apartment on the back, but it's on the second level. And they used to have these entertainment centers that had the VCR and the stereo all built in and the TV, and it was bad wood, and they weighed so much. And I'm thinking, if we have to carry that thing down those stairs, it's going to kill us. So we go up these stairs. We walk in this guy's apartment. He's like, come on in. You know, he's still sitting on the couch. I'm thinking 400 pounds is a big fella. This guy, at least 450 to 500. I mean, he's huge.
Wow.
We're dodging dog crap to get back there. He just had a puppy. So I'm like kind of walking back. We get back to his place, and he's like, yeah, you know, this entertainment center isn't working. And the guy I was with, he kind of looked at it, and I mean, we didn't know how to fix anything. It was just all, you know, smoke and mirrors. And this guy's like, well, boys, I remember he leaned back, and he held up a tape, and he said, this is the one that busted it. Bra Busters 2. And so that dude's sitting there watching porn, and it busted his VCR, and so we had to get out there and fix it. And I just remember how big that dude was, thinking, he never leaves it. All he does is watch porn. Yeah, so that was one of the funniest ones.
How do you think he made his payments?
Who knows? I think there were a lot of government checks coming in at that time.
Okay.
And there was one other really good one, too.
Oh, please.
Okay, so the guy I worked with, he was kind of a, I don't know, maybe gangster, you know, whatever. He was into a few things here and there. This guy, on Fridays, we got paid every week. He'd smoke Marlboros. And then by Tuesday, he was smoking Basics. And it was just always funny to me, like, how these guys did that.
You know, when payday is, right?
Yeah, so we go out. We're riding together. We're in this cube truck. We pull up to this house, and we see people kind of looking out the window. So we know they're in there. Well, he goes up there, and he knocks a few times. No one answers. He knocks a little harder. The door comes open. This big fat lady comes running out, screaming at him, like, bah, 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 bah. And he's like, I just knocked, you know, and I'm still sitting in the truck. He's like, Travis, come on. So I get out of the truck. I walk in. As I'm walking in, so they used to have these dishwashers that you would hook up to your, like the tap in your kitchen.
Right.
Well, they're on wheels. This thing comes flying around the corner at me. I jumped out of the way. We took all their shit. I mean, and the thing that made me feel bad about it was their small daughter comes walking out with like some kind of computer thing. I have to take it from her. And I'm like, oh, God. But we took that. We took their sofas. We took everything. And a lot of times you would go in. People would let you take everything except the TV. They'd sit on the floor to watch the TV. And so we load all this stuff in the truck. We're getting ready to leave. A beer bottle comes flying out of the front door and smashes all over the cube truck. Probably, I don't know, 3 foot from my head.
Oh, wow.
Time to go.
Yeah. I'm like, we're never coming back here. Yeah.
I heard you repossessed a little girl's insulin. Is that true?
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Whoa. Well, I'll tell you what. Those are the kinds of stories that, quite frankly, make me glad I never got into the business of rent to own.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But they were probably getting pretty good rates.
Oh, they made a killing. I mean, unbelievable how much money. But the company that I think Rent-A-Center bought them.
Okay.
So, so it kind of went to another one. There was one guy one time, like probably the only nice house I ever went into was this local TV guy in Mansfield area. And he needed a couple big, that was when they didn't have flat screens then, but they had the big screen TV,
right.
That was a monster. We took 2 of those in for a party he was having. So that was kind of cool. But other than that, it's a little lower clientele, I'd say.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I found some information on Forbes about what rent to own really costs, and it says that it is notorious for costing customers double or triple what they would pay for an item by purchasing it just up front. And this is the example they give. For example, one of the nation's largest rent-to-own companies, Rent-A-Center, recently offered a Samsung 50-inch smart TV for weekly payments of $19.99 for guess how many weeks? 65.
65 weeks or months?
65 weeks. So $19.99 per week for 65 weeks, which brings it to $1,299.35 at the end of the payment period. At that exact same time, Walmart was offering the same TV for $397.
Right.
So $900 cheaper than a rent-to-own transaction. So they recommend save $16 a week for 25 weeks. You'll have enough to buy the TV at Walmart free and clear. And they said, of course, by the end of the 25 weeks, the price of the TV will likely have dropped, or by then you could have taken your saved cash and buy an even fancier TV, which is true the way technology
That is
works.
funny that you mentioned that because everything was weekly. I kind of forgot about that because, most people pay their bills monthly. It was all weekly. And so they break it down and people are like, $20 a week. They don't think about that being $80 a month,
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and I got to tell you, when I was younger and when you would get paid every week, because I remember getting paid every week, these people, this is like not that they're setting up auto pay either. They're probably making they're walking or driving to make payments at places, which is crazy. They go on here to say that NerdWallet, a 2017 NerdWallet study found that Rent-A-Center's APRs averaged from 43% on the low end to 468% on the high end.
Wow.
With the exception of New Jersey, where the state law imposes a 30% APR cap. So compare that to the APR of a credit card, which averaged about 14% in 2018. And that is some crazy money-making opportunities. I mean, it almost seems like it is taking advantage of people.
It is a lot like predatory lending, right? Like those check cashing places or payday loans kind of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, if you wind up in a situation where there's an earthquake and someone has a bottle of water and they start selling it for $20 each, they'll be arrested. Rent-to-own centers just operate like this every day.
But the way someone could feel okay about that is that this person could not have a TV to allow entertainment for their family unless you do this.
That's true too.
There is something like that, but
I get it, and I struggle too, even with the places where you're doing the check cashing places. I think it's crazy. It's a ridiculous amount of money, but they do serve a certain population that either don't trust banks, don't want banks, don't want an account. They like the anonymity in it. Say that 3 times fast. To be anonymous, how about that? So that they can be anonymous and people not know their business and just cash their checks, but they're paying like 3% whenever they cash their checks, which they'd be much better off just, going to a bank. So that was our rent to own story. I personally know Travis, and I know that he has another background and some history and something that I don't think people understand, and this has to do with being a landlord. And before I start this conversation, I have to just say this. I remember when Travis was telling me, I'm thinking about buying some real estate. I'm going to get into this business. I'm going to see if I can make some money out of it. And if I find a good deal, I'm going to snatch it up. And I thought, man, that's great. If you can find that good deal, I'm not really a handy kind of person, so it scares the shit out of me to, buy a house, because I'm sure that, as I took the keys over from the new owner, I'd be getting calls from the renters saying that shit wasn't working and it would just be a money pit. So I remember thinking about Travis like, man, that's crazy. And he bought this place. Was it an 8-unit place?
it was a 5-unit building.
So 5-unit building. And after he bought it, I remember, I don't know, it was many months later. He goes, hey, didn't you say your sister used to work at an apartment complex or something? I go, yeah, she worked for a guy also that owned a whole bunch of homes. And so I said, yeah, why? What do you need? And he said, do you know how to evict somebody? So I thought, oh, you know what? Nothing comes real easy, and there's always lessons in everything. So Travis, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us, what were you thinking when you bought this place as maybe not in the job description? What did you find out after you bought this 5-unit place? What were you thinking?
I so remember that conversation, and your sister helped me so much. So the way it all worked was I bought a duplex at one point just because I had a little extra money, and I thought, I want to do this, and I lived in one side of it. Then I bought a 4-unit, and I was going to keep on doing this. This was going to be my gig. And then my wife, so I got married in the meantime between one of the buys, and I bought a 5-unit building that was only 3 miles away from me, but it was in the
Nice.
hood. I mean, it unbelievable the difference that 3 miles can make.
Well, it is called the other side of the tracks,
That's
so it doesn't
true.
need to be that far.
It's very much true. And so I was just trying to pick up her income because she was going to quit working. And this place, I mean, if my thought was ever to become this big landlord where I bought all these things, I bought a turd. And I mean, it stopped me in my tracks. And literally, I had to do my first eviction like less than a month after I bought this property. It was 5 units. I wound up evicting everybody that was in there except for one. So I called your sister, and it was so funny because she's like, you know what? You give them luggage. It just happens to be a Glad trash bag. And so she laid it completely out for me. And I go in, and I, went in and started evicting these people. And she laid it out perfectly. She told me how to get it into court in 2 weeks rather than 3 weeks. So it was a big help. And there was this kid next door, and he was, I don't know how to say it, but he didn't have a job. Okay, so I would tell him when I needed to evict people. And he would bring 4 or 5 of his buddies, and I'd pay him $25 each. They'd carry everything to the curb.
Oh, man.
And one of my first recollections was this lady, she was in there when I bought it, and she was like, oh, God bless you. God bless you for working with me, you know. And I worked with her for a couple months, and she just never paid, so I evicted her. So it's all God bless, God bless. And then I remember I was kind of crouched down. I'm changing the locks while the sheriff's walking her out. She's like, F you, as she walked out the door. And so after that, it was crazy. So I saw some crazy, crazy stuff. So this property was just unbelievable, you know? And so I started just leaving it empty for a couple months until I could find good people. And eventually I put good people in there, you know? But in that area, you weren't going to find many good people. That was the problem. So my other places, every now and then there would be someone that would pop up that was just so like in this area, you wouldn't expect to see that. And the one that still sticks out to me is this lady, and she was a pretty good tenant. And then all of a sudden she wasn't. She was going to move out. And she calls me the day she's moving out. She's like, oh, we broke a water line in there. So I rushed down there because it's my property, you know, I'm trying to keep it safe. They had broke the washer and dryer thing, trying to get the thing off. There's water running full steam out of there.
Oh, my gosh.
So I turned the whole water thing off and go and do it. This girl was just a pig. I mean, okay, this is no exaggeration. I killed over 1,000 roaches with my foot.
Oh, man.
It was disgusting. There were chicken wings laying there. There was food laying in the corner.
This is a property that you own.
This was actually the unit that I lived in when I first got married.
Oh,
so, I mean,
wow.
Nice unit, decent part of town. I had the environmental company come in, I think it was 14 or 15 times to get the roaches out of there. I mean, it was unbelievable.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And so I finally got them out, got everything cleaned up. And I remember I was moving a new tenant in, and this guy's down there cleaning. He was super clean. Turned out not to be the best tenant, but super clean. He calls me. He's like, I'm down here cleaning, and I just saw 12 roaches. So I had to call the company and come back out and treat it. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they don't like to leave.
And then I had this girl that got on crack after,
It happens.
and we found, yes, seriously, we found stuff everywhere. There was one point where she was taking like an iron rod, and this was a 4-unit building, jamming it through the walls into the other unit.
What for?
Because she was seeing things. Okay, so I go down there and I'm seeing all this drug paraphernalia. I think she's kind of turned into a prostitute. She broke all the windows out. And that was when I was getting ready to go to banking school. And so finally I get her out and I turned it over to this guy. I'm like, just get it done. You know, I mean, at a certain point, you're just like, I don't care. It was unbelievable. And so luckily I sold all those places when the market got
So you were happy
really
to get
hot.
out? Yeah, you were good?
Well, the one on Fifth Avenue that was such the issue where I had all the issues, I probably sold it for under market. Could not have been happier walking out of that closing. I mean, could not have been happier. And then the other ones I kept, and I sold them when the market got so hot in Columbus. Unbelievable.
Nice.
Unbelievable.
Nice.
So it all worked out in the end, but that was another job.
I will tell you, the conversation I remember when we were talking about it, because, we were both in the banking world. We were both all about, how are we going to make our way in this world a little bit. And when you said, it's this it was 5, right?
5-unit.
5-unit place. And this guy's moving to Florida. And he said, all you have to do is have 2 people pay. And that will pretty much cover the mortgage. And then a month later after you bought it, you go, son of a bitch, only one of them's paying.
Yeah, the funny thing about that was I started trying to sell that within a month after I bought it. And the market, so that was basically when the recession was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought at the top of the market. It took a while to get out of that place.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I could not imagine being the landlord. I can't stand. We're kind of minimalists in my house, and we don't have lots of fancy things or anything, but we take care of the stuff we have.
Yeah.
I could not imagine walking into something that I owned and seeing roaches or mice or something. Oh, I'd burn the place down immediately.
Well, the way I kind of got through that was every time so the way I would do it is all Saturday I would work the whole Saturday, and then I'd try and spend Sunday with my family. But whenever I left there, I really felt good about different things in my life.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was kind of like
yeah.
I had to figure something out, but man, it was
It was like your version of cutting. Yeah, exactly.
pain in the butt.
So when these people finally moved out, you had no idea what you were going to walk into in those places, right? When you had to clean them up for the next try to rerun them.
At the one place, I knew it was going to be bad. I just planned for it. But excuse me, the other place where I was talking about all the roaches,
right?
That was the nicest place I owned. So I was totally not expecting that. Boy, it threw me for a loop. That was a bad one. Yeah.
So we've talked about rent to own, and then we talked about renters indirectly. Just to wrap up, I have to ask you, any other interesting jobs that you held, Travis?
There was one. Okay, so I think I was a freshman or sophomore in college, and somebody put an ad in the paper saying we want sports-minded people. So I played football in college. I thought, well, I'm sports-minded, So I go to this interview. Well, it's to sell Kirby's. All right.
And Kirby the vacuum.
Kirby the vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
So this is in Ashland, Ohio. So very close to Mansfield, very close to where I grew up. And so I take the job. I sell 3 my first 2 weeks.
That had to be like a record.
So I'm killing it. But one was to my grandma,
Okay.
one was to my aunt, and one was to some lady that I met because the way they got you in this was so normally you would have a white pad in the little Kirby thing that would show all the dirt.
Yeah.
They have you put a black one in here and run it over their mattress. And they taught us because there's I can't remember the name of it, but something comes out, it's your skin and stuff.
Yeah.
They taught us to be like, this is death. I mean, don't even touch this stuff.
Oh, man.
And this lady's talking to me, and so I'm looking at this like, do you really want your kids walking around on this? Boom, she bought the Kirby.
Nice.
So I sold 3. So a funny story about Kirby. Okay, so the guy that's training me, before he takes me out to lunch the first day, he's like, man, the last guy I took out to lunch, I paid for his lunch, and he quit the next week. He's like, you're not going to quit. I'm like, oh, no, not at all.
That's tell, by the way.
Luke said I could say anything on this, so this
can.
might come across a little weird. But so we're going through this, and this guy who's training me keeps telling me, you know what, this Kirby stuff, I mean, I own my own home. He's like, you know what, if this gets in your blood, you won't even want to go back to college. And I'm thinking, this must be really good. And so literally he tells me 8 or 9 times, I own my own home, free and clear. I'm thinking, man, this guy's a big freaking roller, So we go out to lunch, and we come back. He's like, hey, I need to stop by my house real quick. So we swing in, and I still remember we're in Mansfield, and we drive down this road, and we pull in to a trailer park. So he owns his own home, but he doesn't own the land under it. And it was kind of like, wow, a light bulb went off. So I had sold my 3 Kirby's that first week, and then after that, it's like, I needed to work out and stuff. They're having you go out at night.
Oh,
I mean,
is it literally door to door?
oh yeah.
And refresh my memory on what's the average price of a Kirby?
A Kirby, I think at that time it was like $1,200. I think they're
Holy
pushing
shit.
$2,000 now. I mean, they're nice vacuums, but how nice a vacuum do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
That's just fucking insane.
And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll drop off like 5 or 6 of new recruits, which I would have been a new recruit, in a neighborhood, and they say, go out and sell, And totally it's trained to be like, you really want your kids walking around on this, And I felt bad about it, but yeah, it was crazy.
I actually did the same thing. I had that job for about 2 weeks myself. And same thing, the same ad. You go there, it's like a cattle call. There's 20 people in the interview.
Yeah.
And they pump you up. It's really like this, you can do anything, man. You just got to get your mind right. If you can conceive it, you can achieve it. This whole thing. And you're pumped up.
Positive mental attitude.
You know what, Chris, that reminds me, this guy that sold me on the thing, best salesman I've ever seen.
Oh,
in my life.
sure.
There's this dude in there, and he's like, hey, guys, let me tell you this. And he's so convincing. He said, opportunity only knocks twice in your life. You think you might have already heard it once. This might be the second time. And you might want to take this up. And
You're like thinking over your life, like,
he
holy
totally
shit.
sold it on me. Yeah. Oh, God.
Well, and then they get you to sell to all your family.
Right.
When you're
Family
doing
and
your
friends.
training, your demo training,
Yeah.
you go, and they even told me anyways, when you're halfway through, check in, tell us how it's going. We'll give you some tips to get the sale.
You had to call him like 3 or 4 times
So
during the
I have to ask,
presentation.
Yeah.
Is this like a multi-level marketing thing, or is it literally they just get new people in and they figure, they've got so
The
many
top
aunts and
guy
uncles?
makes all the
Of
money.
course, yeah,
all
yeah.
the money. Yeah.
Yeah, they said, this is when I knew it wasn't for me. They said, oh, we got big prizes if you sell so many. So I had like a one-on-one kind of trainer. We were going out together. We sold the 3 or 4 that we had to for the week. I'm all pumped up. I get back. I know I made like, $30 or $40 per vacuum. I'm like, this is sweet. The big prize was a calculator.
Oh shit!
And I just looked, I'm sure the
Oh,
disappointment in my
shit.
face was like, oh yeah, screw this. So I never went back to, after
Well, I
that.
mean, luckily when the guy's like, if this gets in your blood, you won't go back to college. I thought about it, because really, that would have never even got me to, and then
Right.
into banking. Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, though, I think Bill Gates did the same thing. He just worked in his garage, just a little
Probably.
different,
Yeah.
different thing. Got in his blood. He quit college.
So I've had some interesting ones. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I guess to wrap up this episode of Not in the Job Description, what have we learned? I think I've absolutely learned. Definitely do not rent to own. My God, you just save for a couple weeks and you could probably just buy whatever the hell it is outright. Chris?
I learned do not buy rental properties in the hood.
And if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Well, let me just say one thing. I'm in banking now, so we work with some people that own a good amount of rental properties.
Sure.
Very successful. There was this guy, probably one of the most successful guys in Columbus. He bought his first property the same month I bought my first one. And so I'm thinking, God, I totally missed the ball. I bought mine in rough parts of town. He bought his in really good parts of town. And now he's one of the strongest guys in Columbus. So, yeah.
So it sounds to me like that was the second opportunity knocking.
Yeah. If I only would have missed Kirby,
Yeah.
I'd have had an extra
Right,
opportunity
right.
somewhere in my life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your stories with us today, Travis. We will be back next time with more stories about things that are not in the job description. This is Scott.
This is Chris.
This is Travis.